Welcome back, friends. I used to think that people with successful businesses, or just successful people in general, must have some kind of unique insight into the complicated. In other words, they know something about properties or investments or science or physics, or maybe they possess some kind of smarts or talents that the rest of us simply don't possess. And although that might be true in some cases, a lot of that knowledge, a lot of that skill, a lot of that talent was acquired a little bit at a time, and they don't necessarily know anything that we couldn't know. Our future selves could acquire and develop those skills and talents and knowledge. So I'm confronted with the reality that success is simple, but it's not easy. Success is simple, but it's not easy. If it were easy, everybody would have done it, right? And what it requires is consistent daily effort. And you got to go hit the pavement. You got to be willing to work hard. You have to go botch some cold contacts. You have to get yourself in a good mastermind group of mentors and people with ideas that can help you in your journey. People that may have different temperaments than you do. And that can take a lot of time. And sometimes you really are in the wrong vehicle, and that vehicle's not going to take you to where you want to go. But sometimes you just can't see the forest for the trees, and you can't see how close you actually are to the success that you desire. And I think this is where we can get a little bit impatient. We think that things should be moving faster. We assume that we've already put in every bit of effort that we could, and that the results should be coming sooner. But oftentimes there is a testing phase, and there will be obstacles along the way, and that's almost a guarantee. And that can also just lead to thoughts like, well, I'm not doing enough, and there must be something more, and we need to complicate that process. But you have to understand that the more elements you introduce to your organization, the more complicated it becomes. Let's say, for example, that you're in a band of 3, and the first person handles a lot of the writing. So they do the blogging, and they write content for the website, and they do email marketing. The second person handles social media, so they get onto Facebook and they get onto Twitter and they just hit it really hard. And then the third person handles the street marketing. So they go and meet people, hand out flyers, hand out business cards, and put out posters. I think it's a great thing to delegate responsibility and have a task that each person handles and does well. I think each person working in their strengths really creates a lot of synergy between the band. Let's say the person handling the street marketing came to everybody else and said, look guys, I need some help. And so your first instinct as the social media person or the writing person is to say, well, sure, I care about the band and about the future of the band. Unfortunately, you're no longer working in your strength. And when that happens, you're not as effective as you could be at the tasks that you could be doing. And so it can cause a major distraction. I think what's happening in this instance is that the street marketing person just hasn't gotten very good at problem solving yet. What they need to do is rile up a group of enthusiastic teens or call upon the help of their friends or family to go out and distribute it, because they're responsible for the street marketing and they've committed to it. But another way of adding complexity is then giving more tasks to each person. So let's just say that the band decides it's not enough, writing content for the web and social media and street marketing isn't doing everything that we think it should be. So let's give another task to every person. And you could just keep stacking on more tasks and more tasks and more tasks. And unfortunately, what it's doing is it's taking away the focus of each member, and they're no longer able to work in their strengths as much as they'd like to be. So really, when you think about it, there are a variety of different ways this band could begin to introduce more complexity into the situation, whether that's musically by adding more intricacy and complexity to the riffs they play, or the speed, or the loudness, or just on the management level or the marketing level, what they're doing outside of their practice and rehearsal and recording time to market the band. There's a little principle in business called duplication. This is essentially what allows the president to free up more of his time and have more of the managers and the employees do his work. When you really think about it, if it's work that the president doesn't need to be doing, then it can't be all that complicated. If someone could be hired on and trained within a month or 2 months to do all the stuff that they need to do within the organization to keep things going smoothly, well, it can't be that hard. But really, when you think about that situation, who's doing the most work? Chances are it's the managers and the employees, and the owners or the presidents or the CEOs are not necessarily paid to do the same work. They're paid to think. They're paid to come up with ideas. And so we can't underestimate the value of thought, because really thinking is what some of the highest paid people in the world do best. So quite simply, what I want you to think about is, in your daily routine, what can you duplicate? Don't try to do more than what you know you could handle every single day. So instead of trying to add another layer of complexity, think about the things that you can do every single day, because success is built on small victories and adding a little bit of micro value on a daily basis. Now, there probably will come a time when you can add greater value as long as you continue on the journey. But when you're first getting started, don't worry too much about trying to add a truckload of value every day. I'm reminded of Twitter and how people will favorite or retweet a post. You know what? That's a little bit of micro value. Every time I do that for someone else, they are thankful that I did that. It's a small thing. It's a small favor. But you know what? Small favors add up. When you have more control and more freedom over time, that's when you'll be able to put more resources, more of your thinking power, more of your time, more of your money towards adding greater value to people. But you have to also recognize that it's the journey and not the destination. Beware of arrival fallacy. We think that one day we're going to arrive in this magical land where everything is perfect. And I got to tell you that life is a journey. That's what it is. It's not a destination. And finally, I just want to say that simplicity is the key to a happy life. I have not been the greatest example of that. I think I've already talked about that on the podcast. At times, I have been very guilty of complicating the process without realizing that it really is what you do on a daily basis that counts. So if you enjoyed this episode, go to dawcast.com. That's DAWCAST.com. Leave a comment in the show notes or leave us some feedback, and you will find more blog posts, more podcast episodes, and more resources there as well. Don't forget to sign up for the email newsletter, and if you have a chance, please go to iTunes and search up David Andrew Wiebe Interviews and Music Business Podcast, and please leave us a positive review.